Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I just want to start by saying thank you for hopping on, especially early in the morning. I really appreciate it. So,
No, no problem. I'm sorry. Sorry it didn't work out last week. It's been
oh, I totally get it. It's been so hectic, busy, and crazy. So I'm glad we finally connected. But a little bit of background to what I'm doing here is an independent
sure.
at DePaul University
An
with
independent what?
it's an independent study through the marketing department. So I'm working with Professor Kelly,
Oh,
who's
cool.
part of the Cannabis Studies program at DePaul.
Uh-huh.
These informational interviews will be shared with the rest of the students throughout the different classes, depending on the topic. And then I'm also collecting all of the stories, the highlights, and the takeaways into a vignette collection that I will also share with Professor Kelly and his students.
Okay, cool.
So I wanted to start a little bit.
I'm assuming Professor Kelly is the one that suggested me.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Great.
He gave me a list of a few people, and then of course, you saw the little message on LinkedIn. I messaged everyone that I thought would be able to contribute really well to the conversation. And I thought having your background would be a really interesting pivot because a lot of the women that I've talked to, they either knew from the very beginning that they wanted to be in cannabis or they're in a completely different side of the chain. So I wanted to either start with how your background brought you to accountability, or
Yeah.
we can totally just start wherever you want if you want to give a little lowdown into who you are as a professional and just as a person.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for including me in your work. It's always really exciting to, share what we're building and what we're doing for this space that is it's here to stay. And I think that's the biggest thing for people to wrap their head around.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where my expertise comes in. So, I am born and raised here, northwest side of northwest suburbs, Crystal Lake, and came to Columbia as a eager journalism student after I graduated in 99. And I knew I wanted to work in news. There was absolutely not a doubt in my mind since I was in high school. And I was always kind of a news nerd and and a little nosy and always kind of and I always figured like, well, if I had a camera and a microphone, I could ask whatever questions I wanted and people would answer. So
Definitely, I can
um
totally relate. And you know what? You know what's
yeah.
going on at the same time where you get to enjoy your passion. So I think it's definitely
Hmm.
a thing to be in the know, even if it's going to be a little bit new.
Totally, of course. So went to school for journalism. I interned at Channel 7 for 4 years straight when I was at Columbia for Paul Meinke, who was just a legendary reporter. And when I graduated, I knew pretty much everybody in the field for, the photographers, the reporters, a few anchors from working at Channel 7. And I was hired at CBS, the Channel 2, about 3 to 4 weeks after I graduated. So, when everyone told me, like, you're going to have to go to, small town USA and make peanuts and then come back, I was like, I just don't want to do that. And I luckily didn't have to. So, stayed at Channel 2, worked my way up. I was there 10 years. I'm an Emmy Award winning journalist. I've covered everything from, Bono and Oprah taking over Lakeshore Drive to shootings, crimes, fires. And, I interviewed Bill Clinton. I've interviewed Barack Obama.
Mm.
Been a part of some really cool history events and news here in Chicago. And after 10 years, I was the youngest in the newsroom for a very long time. My drive was clearly unmatched. And because everyone was pretty comfortable, like they had gotten to where they wanted to be. And I, didn't really have that mindset. And so I was both of my parents own their own companies. And I was pretty entrepreneurial, and I ended up starting my first company when I was 26. It was a tanning salon, a high-end tanning salon in Woodfield Mall. I opened it and worked there in the mornings, and then I would go to CBS at night and work till 10 at night and do it all over again. I did that for about 3 years. And then we sold that. I started a second company, which was a real estate investment portfolio. Um, just because like I sold real estate in college, and so I knew a lot about it, and I knew I didn't have a lot of money, but if I had enough money to buy some places and work on my retirement and my portfolio at a young age was better than waiting. So I did that, and then I decided to leave Channel 2 and go work for a startup in the news business, which Lee Abrams, who was one of the founders of XM Radio. Um, when he did the merger with Sirius, he came back from New York and started this new thing, kind of like what he did for radio, for television, for news. And so he recruited me, and I went there, and it was so far ahead of its time, and really not my cup of tea in terms of the type of news we were covering in the day to day. And so I started to put feelers out there and like, I should probably find something else to do. And I I actually connected with Rahm Emanuel's director of communications. And I was like, hey, I mean, I knew her very well. And she's like, where have you been? Like, you haven't been asking for interviews with Rahm. I'm like, no, I'm at this digital channel. And she was like, well, I'm looking for somebody that has your background to be a spokesperson for the mayor. and and with your business background, because I'd already had two companies, it was very public.
It gives you a little bit of each side, kind of from your experience. It sounds like all of the puzzle pieces come together with the entrepreneurial side and the business
Yeah,
side, also being able to understand in the news. From my perspective, I see a lot of consumer behavior in the news and kind of how to communicate. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue,
yeah,
but
no,
it
no,
sounds very
one
inspiring.
hundred, 100%. Um so it was for the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. There's 50 or so departments at the city, so they needed someone for that specific department. Obviously, I knew business, from being a business owner. And so I got the job. And one of the biggest um pieces to that puzzle for Mayor Emanuel was he wanted somebody that had business acumen that could help the business community here in Chicago and help roll out business initiatives that he had set forward. So I
Mhm.
rolled out rideshare here in Chicago. I rolled out home share, which was, two of the largest um, emerging industries nationally, right? Everyone feeling like, wait, we have this really great safe transportation system, and we have a great hospitality industry across the country, but now we should just get in like strangers' cars and rent strangers' houses. Like, how does that work? And so it was my job to implement with my team with no tech. We couldn't spend any money. I couldn't go hire a PR firm. I couldn't go hire a marketing firm. I couldn't go hire an advertising agency. I couldn't buy ads. I could spend $0. And I had to educate the stakeholders of tourists, residents, business owners. And so we had to get really, really creative. And we did. We achieved probably about, $5 million in earned media for the rideshare launch alone. And that's a
Did
big
you do it
deal.
mostly through social channels or more
No,
so?
through old school PR.
Okay, that's what I was kind of wondering because at the time, like social media wasn't really that relevant, so probably have to do a lot of paper pushing.
It was a lot of paper pushing. Yeah.
Interesting.
And there was a lot of kickback because the mayor's brother was a huge investor in Uber, and so people were doing all these bad stories, and we had to be like, no, we had to, do. I came up with over 75 marketing campaigns for the rideshare launch alone, and probably another 100 for the home share, the Airbnb and Verbos of the world. So it was our job to make people comfortable with this emerging industry that was here to stay. It wasn't going anywhere.
Hmm.
All of our parents could say, Oh my God, that's never going to be a thing. No one's going to use that to look where we are today. People don't use taxis, right? Um, so with that knowledge, I stayed at City Hall for 4 years, and then I left and started my own PR firm, TMI, 8 years ago.
Mhm.
And then when cannabis became legal, I was like, oh my God, this is another emerging industry. The first since I left, because when I was there, we did rideshare, home share, we did the plastic bag ban, and the minimum wage increase. So, four things that were very controversial and
Mhm.
very hard to wrap for people to wrap their head around.
So just had cannabis
And
listed, it's a complexity within itself.
mhm. And so I called City Hall to say, like, hey, to my team, like, I'm so excited for you guys. Like, this is the first, initiative since like I've left. Like, like, what's your strategy? Like, I was so excited. And they're like, oh God, we don't have anybody. No one wants to work here because it was like kind of pandemic-y. Everyone wanted to work from home. And they're like, so we're not even going to do anything. And we're really following the state's um initiative. So we don't really have our own. I'm like, oh my God. So my co-founder was also in the meantime having conversations with just with people to be on dispensary teams, and I was on a team and he was on a team. We were going to be on a team together. We ended up sticking with our original teams that we were invited to be on. And my team didn't get any licenses. His team was awarded, I think, nine. um and then he started having conversations with the cannabis industry. And I was saying, I have this like marketing package that I put together for the community plan. Like it's what I did at City Hall for 4 years with four different emerging industries. You should take this. And he's like, well, he's like, actually, I think that based on what they have been telling me, they need a cooperative they need a co-op. And a co-op business model is used in every industry in the world, right?
Mhm.
The biggest being automotive, right? You see a Jeep commercial and they say, "Hey, we got a new member of the fleet. Go to your local go to your local Jeep dealership and test drive one today." They don't send you to a specific one. They just say, "Go to one." And that's because Jeep dealers around the country pool their funds for this co-op to run advertisements to educate consumers. So another example is Sunkist. People buy orange juice for breakfast because that's what the co-op taught people. People look for that Sunkist label. Um, Associated Press is a co-op. I mean, the media has a co-op. So a co-op is basically an organization that is there to bolster the industry by selling memberships and taking a portion of that money and going and buying advertising to educate the consumer. And so we built accountability with that in mind. And now accountability has three pillars, but our first and strongest platform is that. So we are the, go-to resource online for consumers. We've launched three marketing campaigns in the past 2 years. One is why legal, teaching people, you know, the legal way to go about this. The second was TLC with your THC. And within each campaign, there are six marketing messages that are used, and we buy digital ads, and it's been extremely successful because the cannabis industry has failed consumers. They have never said start low and go slow. They've never said, hey, CBD isn't going to get you high. It's totally different than THC. Here's the difference.
Right.
Um, they've never done these things. And to their defense, it's because they don't know marketing and they're focused on pushing their own agenda. But they need to go back to the basics to get consumer buy-in. And that's something that they wouldn't know or necessarily have experience with. So by working with accountability, with my background and my co-founder's background, we have the ability to help them navigate the messaging, which is going to in turn send people into dispensaries or go to the website and ask questions. I mean, we don't push plants, any plant products or um, any plant touching anything. We just say, here are the facts. Like before you make a decision, you should know what's out there. And, the other thing that we do is we have our first educational tool. So on our website is the periodic table of molecules. This is simple science of the plant. We all learn science by that chart on the wall in our science class. And we want people to learn the plant the same way and become familiar with the vernacular of these molecules. You know, oh, I want THCV because I want an appetite suppressant in my gummy. I don't want to have the munchies. Or I want CBDN because I want to have a good night's sleep. We're trying to, bolster the knowledge of the consumer, which will in turn bolster the industry.
Definitely. And a lot of the common denominators that I've been hearing when I'm talking to different women within the industry is that educational aspect. So I had the chance to talk to Lisa from a medical education perspective and how she's on that forefront helping. I,
Lisa,
Solomon,
okay.
she was involved with the cannability, I believe, a few years back.
Hmm.
Um, So kind of going off of that education, whether it be either for the consumer, for a bud tender, or for someone who's looking in to get into the cannabis space, what is that transition? Because back then, like we mentioned, a lot of paper pushing, not a lot of social media versus the strategies now. How have those changed from the launch of a cannability to the social environment now?
Well, I mean, we have catapulted. So we partnered with Curaleaf and they run all of our PSAs. They run all of our marketing campaigns as PSAs. So we have 12 individual marketing campaigns, which are on our website, both of them. And they run those individual campaigns throughout the entire country. So the MSOs are realizing the messaging that we've created needs to be pushed to their consumer as well. But they're promoting their own product, right?
Right.
So,
You're
you
just
know,
mass education behind it.
and 100%. And I mean, we have dozens of doctors that want the periodic table on their wall. We have dozens of scientists that want our research. I mean, we are really the only ones that are out there. I mean, if you go and you look, these products, even today, are mass produced, and because there's no federal regulation, it might not be the same product in New Jersey as it is in Illinois. And
Definitely.
that's a major problem.
It's a major problem. Even I'm from Detroit, so going from that market to the Illinois market, I can see there's an oversaturation over the years and just a push of products and
Yep.
very few. I've seen a few companies. I know the battery company is a really good one about this is what it's in our product. This is how it's going to make you feel versus just these super flashy packaging. Like there's ones that copy popular candy packages, but you don't even actually know what the strain is in
Yeah, no.
any of the
So
make.
that's so as a woman, the what's so exciting for me is what we're doing. We are the only ones in the industry doing this. And we have the only research out there on there's 400 molecules in the plant. There's 51 most commonly used for medicinal purposes. We broke down those 51 at a level that has never been done before. And that's what's in our periodic table. If you go to our website and you click on a disease state and you know the molecules that you need in your product will be highlighted. So you can go to like I'm a woman and I'm experiencing a lack of sleep because of hormone changes. I go on the website, I click on that, it tells me the molecules that I need. There's no one helping women in that sense, right? There's no one helping people with anxiety at this level. There's no one helping people with chronic pain that instead they're like, go, go take a bunch of opioids. That's not what we're doing. We are empowering individuals with chronic issues that can be dealt with. This is an alternative option.
Mhm.
And no one has done this before at an educational, scientific level.
I think that's amazing, especially because one, you get that education of, hey, if you're experiencing this, like you said, if it's sleep, these
Yep.
are things that you can take, and here's why, and that education behind it. But it's
Yep.
also opening that conversation of this is medical care. Maybe it's not the end all to be all for some people, but it's definitely an alternative that's out there and opening that conversation. So, kind of going off of excitement of being a woman in the industry, that conversation, have you noticed it changing as one, being a woman in the space over the years, and two, the conversation of women's use? Because that's not something that's really touched on. I think we touch a lot on just like general use and
Oh
conversation,
my gosh. Yeah. No.
but
I
not
mean,
like a niche one.
I'm single. I'll be 43 on Friday. I've never been married. I have
Early
no
happy
kids.
birthday.
No, thank you. And let me tell you, like am like was never a huge cannabis consumer.
Mhm.
I love wine. That's my thing. Now I'm learning all these things and I'm learning because when I would consume cannabis, I was completely consuming the wrong thing for me. And it's like, well, of course that's not going to work well. I'm not going to feel good. But I take gummies that have THCV. I don't get the munchies. That's a huge thing for me. I mean, the more that we know in anything, the more knowledge is power, right? We all know that. But this is something that is like we have one body, just one. I mean, I treat my body like my car. You have to like get oil changes. You have to give it a break. You have to keep it clean, right?
Feel
All
good.
these things, yeah, you have to do for yourself. And this is a simple way to avoid not feeling well. That's when I need to feel well. And no one's doing that for women. And like the researchers and the scientists that we're working with realize that I mean menopause, it's in peri and postmenopause, everyone goes through it. It doesn't matter what level.
Mhm.
Why don't we have a solution for this yet? Why are women still trying to figure out their hormones?
That, and not even that you're still trying to figure it out. It's that there's not a really relevant conversation about, okay, how are we going to move forward with this rather than just, I'm not going to say sit around and complaining, but sit around and not moving forward, like you said, not educating, not having those conversations.
Yeah, it's a major problem. So for me, this is a really exciting opportunity because I hear it every single day. I hear it every single day. I don't care if it's from uh late 30 or 30 something or a late 60-year-old. Everyone talks about it. And my girlfriends, a lot of them are my girlfriends, my colleagues, family, like they take gummies because to go to events, they have to, like there's so much commotion in the world. And you can't just, if wine was their typical thing, well, that doesn't happen until they go home and go to bed. But if they microdose, some sort of CBD or mixed with THC, and their functionality is more positive and more long lasting, why are we suppressing that?
Exactly. And that, I like how you kind of related to a glass of wine in the evening, but at the same time, like you said, that's not until a little bit later. So what are we going to do in the meantime? And I kind of like the term microdosing because it goes into fighting the stigma against cannabis of, oh, if you're just taking cannabis, THC, CBD, whichever it is, it's going to make you lazy and not be able to do things. It's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, yeah.
People
You're
are,
probably thinking the wrong kinds.
there you go, because there wasn't a mass
Yeah.
education. And I think I mean, we could talk about the war on drugs and how that really goes into the stigma, but with
Oh,
that,
and we are about to completely, like, accountability is going to do a national campaign about that. I mean, we're going to go after it in a major way because that's the biggest thing of the destigmatization. I mean, DARE is what everyone after the age of what, 35 knows? 30?
I was like, I think I even had that when
And
we
how old are
were,
you?
I'm 21. So we were
Oh, so
definitely
you had DARE
like,
too?
yeah, we
Okay,
have the
so
bracelets
yeah,
and the whole
yep,
nine. But at the
yep,
same time, when you're thinking that, you're thinking of horrible things when you're a child. So
yep,
that when you turn 18 and you do have the opportunity to talk to your doctor about medical cannabis or just an opportunity as a career, if you want to be a journalist, if you want to be in cultivation, all of these things, they're completely suppressed from a very, very young age.
yep. Oh yeah. I mean, it's like you're a loser. You're like that means the downgrading is harsh.
Extremely hard. I mean, like, of
Yeah,
course, if it's going to be another substance, but that just goes into why cannabis was associated with all of these harder,
yeah,
less, I'm just going to say less desirable
yeah.
uh, things to partake in. But I know we just have a few minutes. I wanted to know if there's anything that you wanted to relay, especially to women within the cannabis studies program, advice on one, either being in cannabis or two, just following your passions.
Yeah, I mean, I am a true believer that you have to do what makes you feel good. And for me, I like to let people know that there's other things out there in a way that's relatable.
Hmm.
I'm not here to tell people or tell women to consume cannabis or not. But I think that it's important for everyone to have the knowledge to be a part of the conversation and know that there are alternatives out there.
Definitely. And I think it all falls back to education, and that's a large part of the conversation I had with Lisa. So definitely no surprise that you two are working together with accountability. And it's really
Yeah.
exciting to see, especially like you said, the campaign coming up. I'll stay tuned for that one. But I just
Yes.
wanted to say thank you again for hopping on a call with me. I'll keep
Sure.
you updated. I'm doing a vignette, I never say the word right, but a little collection of the stories, and then I'll share it out with you as well as the rest of the cannabis studies program.
Yeah, if you don't mind sending me the links, I would love that. And we can
Oh,
also, share it on our website.
that would be amazing. I know Dr. Kelly
Yeah.
and I are talking about publishing it on Amazon. I don't know the details of that, but I know Dr. Kelly dreams big, so we all should.
Yeah, no, no, no. I'd be happy to so I will definitely ooh, I will definitely link it on our website if you send me the articles.
Awesome. I'll keep you
And we'll
updated
share it on our social too.
by the end of November.
Okay. Great.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Talk soon.
Have a good one. Bye.
Okay, bye.